So in my last video, guys, I went over the best way to become a good IGL for your duo in Chapter 3. But in today's video, I'm going to be going over how to become the best fragger since many of you guys have requested it. This is also a video that I have covered in the past, however, this is a very updated guide that is much overdue. Obviously, consider using code Sonata YT in the Fortnite item shop. Let's hop into this video. So I'm going to first be going over the general requirements for all fraggers that are going to be playing the game. First off is obviously going to be the fact that you have to be a good fighter. Your aim is going to need to be top notch, you're going to need to have good mechanics and a good fighting IQ. A couple examples of pro players that are going to be fraggers is going to be Day, we got Miro, another example might be Reet, the list just goes on and on to be honest. You also need to be capable of getting Storm Surge throughout the game in case you are in some stacked lobbies. As Fortnite gets more and more competitive, the lobbies are going to get more and more stacked and you're going to need to know how to deal with Storm Surge correctly. The best way to do so is get a fragger that understands the best way to get Storm Surge, has good aim, and is able to pinpoint the best positions to be in order to get Storm Surge. Another really quick notice, please make sure that you do have visualized sound effects on. This setting got very heavily updated with the start of Chapter 3, and basically now you're going to be having 3D audio, spatial audio, directional audio. Pretty much everything you had with this setting off, you're now going to have on, along with the benefits of visualized sound effects. You're going to be able to see where enemies are, you're going to be able to tell where they are more precisely, and overall it's just going to provide a competitive advantage for all fraggers, which is why I would recommend that you all have it on. Overall, the role of fragger is definitely going to be the best role for people who are ex-creative warriors, ex-wager players, or people who are just generally good fighters. Moving on to Fragger Positioning. Fraggers should ideally position at the back of their tarp and go for strategic peeks on the opponents around the area. This is basically going to help them isolate all of the people who are getting suffocated by builds and all of the stragglers that are low on HP in the back of the zone. This is going to help you get more kills, get more refreshes, and assemble yourself with more loot. In order to look at these people, I'd recommend that you guys use a wide variety of peeks in order to make sure that you don't get hit by the enemy players, but that you can hit them. A couple examples of peeks that are going to be pretty good are peanut butter edits, right hand peeks, and another example of how you can reset and then look through a wall. Basically what you guys can do is do any of these various peeks and then apply them while you are in a tarp during endgame. Another really important factor for fragger positioning is realizing when you cannot go for loot that you have just killed somebody off of. Basically what this means is that you shouldn't be getting too greedy off of loot that you just got from a dead body that you killed. I'd recommend that you guys use something that I like to call the Com Kill Collection, or the CKC for short. This term basically means that you should get the kills but don't be greedy and confirm with your IGL and use your better judgment about whether you should drop. If you scout down an area for a couple of seconds where you just got a kill, and you see that it is safe and it is quick to get the loot, you can drop. But if you get any bad feelings about players that might be aiming there, players that might be focusing that area, and overall fights that are going to be happening on that layer, I'd recommend that you don't drop and take the safer path. Most of the time, just try to listen to your IGLs, but keep in mind that you can also use your better judgment to decide. And of course, you can't be a fragger without getting your impact frags for refreshes. And this isn't just going to be refreshes, this is just kills in general if you want to get points. But I'm going to be going over 3 primary methods that you guys can use to get kills while you're playing the game. This can apply to early game and mid game, but primarily this will be the most useful in the end game. The first method is known as the 3-2-1 method. This style of fragging is a method specific to duos in which you and your IGL count down from 3 and then actively jump into someone's box trying to get a kill. This creates a 2v1 situation in which you are able to kill somebody a lot easier. This method is by far the most widely used by pros who do need an impact frag, because in the high level lobbies it is a bit more difficult to get solo kills on your own. Another method of getting impact frags is to do the poke method. Now this is something that I like to think that I created. This is basically where you poke a certain team as you rotate and track them throughout the endgame. Eventually you're able to eliminate them. This method is extremely useful if you guys want to passively find a way to prepare for the future of the endgame. For example, if you're good on mats at a certain point and you start poking a team, later on when you're low on mats you can find that team and eliminate them in order to get their resources. This method's fantastic for people who have very good awareness during the endgames, and as you play more and more, you're going to get better at tracking people through the endgame in the builds. And now the last method is known as the location method, where you can drop your opponents, you can take their walls, you can move an enemy. Your goal is basically just to isolate them into a space where you can secure the kill. You can do this with or without the help of your teammates, it doesn't really matter as long as you get the kill in the end. This is probably the safest option if you guys want to guarantee getting the loot every single time. However, in this situation, it is possible sometimes for things to go very wrong and other teams to jump into your business. Basically, what could happen is that if you kill a certain player, another team could jump in on you and try to get the loot. And if you're caught off guard, your team might be eliminated. This is probably the safest method for getting loot, but probably the most risky method for getting third party, which is definitely a very real threat during the endgame. And of course, I wouldn't make a fragger video without talking about smart fighting versus drone fighting. Smart fighting for a fragger is when you take fights that make sense and you can avoid a 50-50 in. However, drone fighting is when you jump in without reason and leave the fight up to an aim duel. In order to decipher between the two, what you should normally do is just think about your situation, consider whether or not you have the ability to fight, and if you do, look for a kill. While you're looking for these kills, try your absolute hardest to minimize 50-50s by taking right angle peeks and peeking successfully like I mentioned before. That's an example of smart fighting. However, examples of drone fighting may be when you just jump into a box without any question, without any need, and don't tell your IGL and then die and blame it on your teammates. That will not only ruin the team mental, it'll ruin your own gameplay and your own potential for kill points. This is why you need to get more experience during endgames, arena, and learn how to fight players on your in-game ping and your in-game strategies. This is by far the best way that you guys can get good at fighting during the endgames, but just make sure that every single time that you're in an engagement, you're always going to be smart fighting. Now really quickly, I just want to go over fragging on controller versus fragging on keyboard. If you guys are on controller, it is a little bit easier to frag simply because you have the aim assist. What you guys can do is focus on using your SMGs to get into the boxes and then cleaning up the kill with your SMG or your AR in the end. Your aim assist will do a lot of the work for you, and you really just need to prioritize having crisp and clean movement. Like I always say, being smooth on controller is a little bit better than being fast on controller, especially during the end games. However, if you are on keyboard, I'd recommend that you guys try to play very smart with your box fighting skills. Box fighting during the endgame isn't as important. However, what you guys should try to do is go for sneaky peeks where you can get damage on the opponent while they cannot see you. However, once you're done with that, I'd recommend that you guys use resources like your Spider-Man mythics and various other weapons in order to get the utility that you killed off of the opponent. And last but absolutely not least, I'm going to be going over the comms for a fragger. Now, fraggers do need to relay information about the game that involves their kills and their refreshes that they are getting. They need to also relay information about the loot that they see and the loot that they can potentially get. They can advise their IGLs in various different game decisions. And basically, their comms are very important simply because there's only 2 members of a duo. However, in the overall grand spectrum of how much the fraggers should talk, they should really only talk when there's an important situation and listen to the comms of their IGL. If your IGL tells you to stop pushing a fight or tells you to follow them, I'd recommend you do that pretty much every single time. You always want to follow the chain of command and trust your IGL whenever they tell you to make a certain decision. So the 2 things that I'd recommend for your comms in game is definitely to relay information about the kills that you're getting and the loot that you see, and then also make sure that you listen to your IGL and follow their advice whenever they give it to you. And if you follow all of these tips that I went over in this video, you eventually should become a very good fragger. Anyways guys, that is the video on how to become the best fragger in Chapter 3 Season 1. As you guys know, Duo FNCS and Duo Cash Cups are coming up. These are going to be some of the biggest times for competitive Fortnite, and you guys definitely do need to know how to succeed. So if you did enjoy today's video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel down below. But that's about it for this video guys. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys.